Colombia 1,000 Venezuelan forces crossed borders since February. Caracas, Venezuela. About 1,000 members of the Venezuelan security forces have fled to Colombia since last month, giving up weapons and uniforms as they abandoned the government of President Nicolas Maduro, Colombian authorities said Monday. Colombia's foreign ministry released the updated number of Venezuelan police and soldiers who crossed the border, many around the time of a February 23 attempt by opposition leader Juan Guaidó to deliver U.S.-provided humanitarian aid to Venezuela. The attempt failed. The deserters have received lodging, health care, and legal aid, and were accompanied by some 400 family members, Colombian officials said. Colombia, the welfare of the Venezuelan deserters, and their families back home, is a growing concern. Jean Marchena Castillo, an army captain, told local media that pro-Maduro forces were threatening relatives of some of those who fled Venezuela. Some deserters, Humberto Calderon Berti, Guaidó's representative in Colombia, said he plans to work with Colombian authorities to provide training and employment opportunities to the men. Diosdado Cabello, a leading pro-Maduro politician, said in Caracas on Monday that the security forces who fled to Colombia had been offered bribes to do so. Deserters strong. Despite the desertions, Maduro has retained the support of Venezuela's key military leaders, who are considered pivotal in determining the outcome of the country's power struggle. Maduro alleges more than 3 million Venezuelans have fled the country in recent years, about one-third of them finding refuge in Colombia. Nearly a week after Venezuela's worst blackouts inflicted more hardship across the country, Maduro was said to be planning a cabinet reshuffle. Vice President key cabinet figures include Rodriguez, a former foreign minister. Information Minister Guaidó on Monday scoffed at the report of cabinet changes, telling journalists it merely reflects how the government is weakening and without. He again said the nationwide power outages were the result of government corruption and mismanagement and not, as Maduro claims, an act of sabotage directed by the United States. U.S. and Russian officials, meanwhile, were meeting in Rome to discuss the crisis in Venezuela. Elliot Abrams, Moscow supports Maduro while Washington has imposed oil sanctions on Venezuela in an attempt to push Maduro from power. Also Monday, in a move welcomed by U.S. officials, envoys loyal to Guaidó took over 2 Venezuelan diplomatic buildings in Washington and the consulate in New York. Panama. Also, Maduro has cut diplomatic ties with the U.S., though diplomats loyal to him are still in the United States as representatives to the United Nations and the Organization of American States. Venezuela's foreign ministry said the takeover by Guaidó's envoys was illegal and urged the United States to reverse it, saying there could be reciprocal actions in Venezuela if it doesn't. It did not provide. The last remaining American diplomats in Venezuela left the embassy in Caracas and flew home Thursday. Associated Press journalists Jorge Ruda and Fabiola Sanchez in Caracas, Cesar Garcia in Bogotá, Colombia, Luis Alonso Lugo in Washington and Carl Ritter in Rome contributed to this report.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park, pot.